Today we're very fortunate to have Patrick Murphy with us. Pat is a professor at Notre Dame. He's been chair of the marketing department. He's also co-chaired ethics centers. He's done a number of things at Notre Dame, as well as one of the best published people in the field of marketing in the area of marketing ethics. So Pat, welcome here to the University of New Mexico. We're glad you could visit with us. And also, I want to thank you for the opportunity to make this podcast and to ask you some questions. So let's get started. The first question is, by the way, a few years ago I did see your video that's on YouTube concerning Johnson & Johnson. So you were interviewed concerning, I guess, their progress in ethics and accountability on the 25th anniversary of the recall of Tylenol. How did you characterize this recall at that time?
I characterize the recall as being a gold standard, not only for the recall of the Tylenol capsules from the market, but also how to handle a corporate crisis. And in business and marketing ethics, we use this example now for nearly 30 years. But I think one of the distinguishing features was that James Burke, the CEO at the time, was right out in front of the issue and talked to the media, told everything that was going on, and the J&J credo guided them through this process, because the first line of the credo said, "We are responsible to the doctors, nurses, patients, mothers, fathers who use our products," and as Burke said, people were dying using their products, so it was a no-brainer, if you will, to recall it. And a recent newspaper article, I thought, did a good job of characterizing this when it said it's been used, and they use my words, gold standard. The model dictates that a company should communicate clearly with the public about a crisis, cooperate with government officials, swiftly begin its own investigation of the problem, and if necessary, quickly institute a product recall.
Thanks, Pat, for that very insightful response to what's happening at Johnson & Johnson. What do you think's happened in the last couple of years?
Unfortunately, J&J has had more than a few bumps in the road. Starting in 2010, it was actually the same day, the FDA brought two different cases against J&J. It was actually the FDA and the Justice Department. And the Justice Department charged J&J with paying tens of millions of dollars in kickbacks to an intermediary to use their products in nursing homes. And J&J was guilty of having this happen over a number of years, in the late 90s up to 2004. And at the same time, the FDA told J&J they needed to recall a number of products which were moldy. I don't know exactly what happened, but they were moldy, and I think they said it came from the pallets, and it was Motrin and St. Joseph Aspirin and Tylenol, a number of very well-known products. So that happened in early 2010. Then May of 2010, they had another recall, and just in yesterday, which would have been the end of March of 2011, they had yet another recall. So they've really run into major issues, and not only is the press disappointed in them, and I'm sure their stockholders, but those of us that teach business ethics feel like we can no longer use them as a gold standard or a primary example.
Pat, what is your assessment for the future for Johnson & Johnson, and can they regain the high ground?
I think J&J can regain the high ground, but my view is that they're going to have to do some very significant things. One, they've already started. Their chairman and CEO, William Weldon, it was reported, is taking a 45% cut in his bonus for 2010 because of these issues. And as we all know, the buck stops at the top, or the tone at the top is very important for a corporation. But I think they need to be more transparent. One of the things I forgot to mention earlier is that instead of recalling, they had a company they hire kind of do a recall on the sly, and I think they need to be much more transparent and upfront, if you will, about what their problems are and communicate like in the early days of the Tylenol issue, and be much more forthcoming. And I think ethical actions obviously build trust. In fact, James Burke, the CEO at the early 1980s, said he equated ethics with trust. And I think that trust has been undermined for J&J, and it will help their corporate reputation, but also the right thing to do to be more ethical. And one of the things that those of us who have studied ethics for a long time know is that J&J in the 1970s had what they called Credo challenge meetings, where they got together and say, is the Credo really something we want to follow? It was instituted in the 1940s, and the Tylenol incident happened only about 5 years after that, and not only James Burke, but the other executives felt that these Credo challenge meetings were very helpful in making the decisions that they did at the time. And I would advise J&J that it's time for another round of Credo Challenge meetings early in the 21st century.
Pat, I would like to thank you for your time today, your very insightful and thoughtful responses to these important questions, and we certainly hope that you'll come back and visit us again.